Okay, good morning to everyone. Call the meeting to order, and we will begin with roll call. Heidi, please.
Trustee Baker.
Here.
Trustee DeLay.
Here.
Trustee Jacobs. Trustee Johnston.
Here.
Trustee Smith.
Here.
Trustee Wright.
Here.
Keith Huber. Here. Chris Massaro. Trustee Tracy.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Great. Thank you, Heidi. So welcome to everybody, and thank you for being here. I know we've got a busy day today, and we have 5 action items today, so no informational items. So we'll go on and jump right in, get started. And I want to thank the executive administrative staff for all the preparation and hard work they do in making these meetings flow so smoothly. So thank you again for that. So, Mr. President, do you have comments?
No, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. So our first order of business is the approval of the minutes. You had those in advance. Do I hear a motion for approval of the minutes?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Motion
Passed
carried, Madam
unanimously.
Chair.
Pardon?
Motion carries.
Motion carries. Thank you. Motion carries. So our next item of business is approval of the new academic degree program, the BS in Tourism and Hospitality Management, and Mark Burns is our presenter.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Wright, and good morning, everybody. You have in your booklet a voluminous amount of information about this new major, which we're really excited about. I don't intend to go over it in great detail unless you ask me to. But in short, talk about a degree that the market is clamoring for, and this would be it. All you have to do is drive out Medical Center Parkway in Murfreesboro or even look at the skyline in Nashville to recognize the number of new hotels that are going up. And obviously we all understand the important role that tourism has in our economy. And so this degree is explicitly designed to address employment demands in that need, in that area. In fact, Peter Cunningham, in his research, I forgot the actual number, but I think you said, Peter, that for every job, it's 0.81 people are available, which took me a while to get. In other words, 20% of the job demand is going unfilled right now. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it took me a while to get my head around that. Every open job, there's the equivalent of 80% of a person available. So the job market is asking for this, and equally important from our standpoint is academically it's a very sound program, fits in well with the existing curriculum that we have. Assuming that we've had an external reviewer come in and look at this program, we've tweaked it in response to that. Assuming this committee and then the board next month approves it, the next step will be THEC, and we'll implement in fall of 2018. Be glad to answer any questions.
I had a couple of questions. We're starting with hopefully 10 the first year and going to 50. Is that?
Yes, sir.
And do you have a number that you guess is 10 break even? It doesn't look like we're adding facilities or staff. So what number is break even? Do you
that is in the.
I missed that.
It's in the financial projections, and I don't know if I can get my hands on that immediately. Peter says we break even from the first day.
That's easy. I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Pam, I have a
Any
question.
opposed?
Pam.
Oh,
I
I'm
have a
sorry.
question.
I'm sorry.
It's
Please
okay.
go ahead. Tony has a question. We'll hold our vote until
Thank you.
we just had half the votes. I'm sorry.
I have a question of Heidi. Because I'm listed as a faculty member involved in this degree, should I recuse myself from voting on this motion?
You may wish to do that. That may be appropriate, yes.
So I want to let everyone know I am listed as a faculty member in this degree plan, and I will not vote. I'm recusing myself.
Okay, thank you, Tony. I appreciate that. And is there any opposition vote? Okay, the motion carries. So we will move to our third agenda item, which is also presented by Mark Burns, and it's approval of academic degrees under consideration, BS Data Science.
Right, this is on the front end of the approval process. The tourism and hospitality is sort of, we've done the heavy lifting on that. The proposal is ready. On this item, we're just asking you for permission to go ahead and do the full-blown proposal. And again, there's not as much information in the book because we haven't done that proposal yet, but we're quite confident based on the work that we have done that there's demand in the marketplace for people with data sciences background. In fact, Bruce will tell you if you give him half a chance how difficult it is to hire somebody in his area due to the demand in the Metro Nashville area for people with these sort of qualifications. So this vote would give us the green light to go ahead and do that full proposal.
So the question, Bruce, have you done a large amount of the homework in preparation for presentation?
To this degree, no, I haven't, but it's very difficult to hire people with this talent. The competition is fierce. Many more jobs than people available.
Any further discussion before we entertain a motion? Do I hear a motion?
Motion made.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor then, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The motion carries. So moving to our fourth agenda item, approval of the appointment of a chair of excellence. So Mark Burns will discuss the National Healthcare Chair.
Thank you, Chairman Wright. So this, we're excited to now be filling the NHC Chair of Excellence in Nursing. This is one of several chairs of excellence we have at the university. Again, this is a theme today, I guess. We all know that the robust nature of our nursing program, but also the need out there in the marketplace for additional nurses. We see the person recommended for hire here, which policy dictates that the board approve chairs of excellence. Her job will be in not only to do research, but to reach out to these corporations and facilitate not only placement of our student nurses, but also smooth the path to employment. And we're excited. We have a very strong candidate, we think, and hope that you'll approve her.
Any discussion?
So moved.
Okay, second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. All right, we are on tab number 5, which is a vote on an action item and a voice vote on the petition to appeal negative recommendation for tenure and promotion. And just as a reminder, this is going to involve process, not merit, and we will have time for discussion, but Heidi's the presenter on this.
Actually, I'm going to defer and let Mark go first and then follow up.
Yep, thank you. I wanted to give the board, since this is the first one of these cases that you've heard, a little bit of background on how our tenure process works. And I think that'll be helpful in the vote that's coming up. As a reminder, our faculty members fall into 3 categories. We have tenured faculty members, those who've already achieved tenure. We have full-time faculty who are in non-tenurable positions. That is, they'll never have tenure, but they're full-time, often long-time employees of the university. And then we have tenure-track faculty, those folks who have been hired in a tenurable position but have not yet gotten tenure. That is, they're early in their career typically, and they have a period of time to demonstrate their capability, their suitability to be tenured. So we have these three types. I want to outline a little bit, though, about how the tenure track process looks. We've had some conversations about tenure at the board, but how does that tenure track? That is, those people hired in a tenurable position, but before they get tenure, how does that work? It's a really high-stakes thing for the faculty. I mean, I went through it myself, Dr. I mean, a lot of us have gone through the process, and it's a stressful one. I mean, first of all, it's hard enough these days to get a tenure-track job. The national market is such that there's not many of those available, and depending on the discipline, it can be a really tough competition to get a job. They're nationally searched. So every tenure-track position we have there's been a national search to fill it. And because if a person does not get tenure, we require them to leave the university. So this is a big deal that we take very seriously. And I'm going to quickly outline how we go through it just to let you know that we understand that we get it's a big deal and we want to be as fair and consistent as possible. The application for tenure takes place typically at the beginning of the 6th year of a tenure-track faculty member's stay here. And the thing to keep in mind is we want these people to succeed. That's our goal. We've invested in them. They've invested a lot of effort to get where they are. Our goal is always to get people to be successful. In some respects, the tenure process really starts from day one. My office and other offices on campus have faculty development programs. Most departments have either formal or informal mentoring done by the more senior faculty to sort of bring along the junior faculty. My office puts on a workshop every year to give tips about tenure and promotion. Each year, every faculty member is evaluated in writing by his or her department chair. And often not a pleasant process, but it's an important feedback mechanism so that every year, in addition to whatever informal feedback the faculty member is getting, they're getting some feedback in writing about how they're doing. And then about halfway through the tenure process, we have what's called pre-tenure review, which is a more elaborate and in-depth view of how is that faculty member doing? What's their trajectory like? Does it look like they're on the path toward achieving tenure or no? This review not only includes the department chair, but also the departmental review committee, the college dean, and the college review committee. So there are 4 different entities weighing in at that pre-tenure review, which typically takes place in the 3rd year of the probationary period, which is that time before a tenure-track faculty member gets tenure. The goal of all of this is that there are no surprises when it comes to tenure. That is, we should know, both the applicant, the candidate, and the university should be clear. In fact, as someone who has been involved in a whole lot of tenure and promotion decisions, I want it to be a slam dunk. Yes. And the hard ones are when it's close, or when it's a slam dunk no, which is less common. So that's what happens before the tenure application takes place. What happens in that tenure application year? The faculty member submits a really extensive amount of material on behalf of their application, what we call an outline of faculty data, which is actually there's a copy in your materials. Those can be many, many pages long, detailing what the faculty members do. And then they'll also submit often big binders of supporting materials, again, as in recognition of the fact that this is a big deal that for the faculty member and for the university. This tenure decision, we used to say it was $1 million decision. I think inflation has probably increased that. I'm not sure what the amount is, but you're saying to someone, in essence, you do a good job, you'll be employed here for the next 30 or so years. So again, the detailed and extensive nature of the process really is meant to reflect all of that. So these materials are submitted in the fall. The first stage of review is at the department level, where the chair and a special department tenure and promotion committee or review committee independently look at that material and make a judgment. And if they're in agreement, great, it goes to the next level. If they disagree, which happens sometimes, they meet in an effort to agree. They don't have to, and sometimes there are split recommendations that go forward, but there is that meeting, that attempt to talk it over and to reach a conclusion. The next stage is at the college level, where the same thing happens with the dean and the college tenure and promotion committee. And they each make independent judgments, and again, if there's disagreement, they meet in an attempt to reconcile. Then the file comes to my office, where with the help of my vice provost, I look over really carefully this stuff for the entire university to make my own judgment. At that stage, if the candidate feels that the process has been in some way flawed, they can appeal to a faculty appeals committee or faculty review committee, and that committee will make a recommendation to the president as to whether or not there's been a problem in the process. And then it all goes to the president, who in the spring will, and I know that he takes a lot of time and effort in looking over this stuff because it's, again, the important nature of it. And so he makes his recommendation. So by the time a recommendation for tenure gets to you, typically in June, there have been 6 separate evaluations of that material. Again, we do it not just because we love long, drawn-out processes, but we're trying to be as fair as we can be to the faculty members. So it's a thorough and deliberate process, and we really do try to be as fair as we can be, as consistent as we can be. But after the president makes his decision, if the candidate feels that the process has been flawed, they can appeal to the board, and that brings us to where we are today. So that might be more than you wanted to know, but I thought it might be helpful to have some outline of what this process looks like. Be glad to answer any questions on that.
Okay.
Madam Chair, may I ask, Provost, would you go through the process of vote? 6 from the department chair, the dean, a college committee, the votes in
Right. So the department chair, departmental committee, dean, college committee, provost, and president. Those are 6 separate votes. Now, there are occasions where there'll be different votes along the way, and that's when it gets harder for the president and me to make our decisions if there's a split recommendation coming forward. That's not the norm, but it does happen. More often, there's, everybody's in agreement, but, yeah, so those are the 6 steps, or 6 votes.
All right, and before we have discussion, just as a reminder, because it's important that we follow the legal requirements here, not only for Dr. McClellan, but also for the university. And it's not the job of the committee to determine based on merit. It's the job of the committee to determine if policy was followed. So I know there will be discussion, and so I'll open it for discussion now. Or do you want to entertain a motion first, or?
No, Madam Chair, if I could, and just explain what the committee's vote will be today,
Okay.
what you're considering. But if I could just interject one thing, just to be sure that everyone is clear, because she was denied, this is a petition concerning denial of tenure and promotion, and so it could be helpful to sort of give, because you could do it so much more eloquently and articulately than me, how those go hand in hand.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point. Tenure promotion typically do go hand in hand. When you're hired in the tenure track, in almost every case, you're hired as an assistant professor. And the rules are structured in such a way that application for promotion to associate professor, which is the next rank, takes place at the same time as the application for tenure. Now, sometimes the timing is a little bit off, but by and large, that is what happens. And so it's the same process, the same application, but there are separate votes, separate decisions on each of those. So that's a good point, Heidi. In this case, the candidate did apply for both tenure and promotion, and that's typical. So, yeah, that gets at what you're asking, right, Heidi? Yeah. So I should have made it clear that those are technically separate processes. It would be really weird, though, to vote in favor of tenure and against promotion, or vice versa, because it's the same standards that you're using. Again, there's been 1 or 2 exceptions over the years, but that is not typical. So yeah, they typically go hand in hand.
So what the committee wants to look at and vote on today is whether to grant the petition or not. If you vote to grant the petition, that means that at your next regularly scheduled meeting, you will actually determine whether to provide it or not. There are indications of what you can do. You can agree with the determination or send it back or disagree. But at this point, your determination, your consideration is merely to determine whether to grant the petition or not. If you vote not to, that ends the inquiry at this point. If you grant to, to grant it, then it goes to the next meeting, and your decision, your recommendation, then will go to the board at its following meeting.
That's very helpful. Thank you. So, any other comments from either of you before we open it up for discussion? Okay. Any discussion?
Yes, Heidi, I just want to ask a point of clarification. So in the, what do you call that? In our information page, what is page 47 of our notebook, paragraph 6 of section 3A, I'm going to put this in personal terms. We, as the committee now, in determining whether to grant an appeal, may consider those 3 points. The second point, I want to get some clarification whether or not there is material evidence to substantiate the decision appealed from. Is that? Can you elaborate on that?
Sure. That means you look at the appeal and the response to the appeal at sort of a higher level. And if it appears to you that there could be material evidence to support the application, then you would want to vote to grant the appeal, and you would then get into more of the information involved. You could hear from the faculty member at its next meeting and so forth. But this is sort of your higher level
Exactly.
determination at this point.
Gotcha. Okay. Fundamentally, I asked to make sure that I did the right thing. Just to the committee. I spent several hours yesterday looking through all the materials that were provided, and I kept coming back to that question, that one question, because, like Dr. Burns was saying, I've been through this process also, and I certainly don't want to set a precedent for automatically denying or accepting appeals. That's not the objective. So I was very careful in reviewing the information, and from my review of this information, and I'm not actually talking about whether or not it should be a decision, what decision should be made, just the question of should we consider this as to accept the appeal. I found 4 bits of documentation, shall we say, and evidence to support allowing the appeal to be heard. The 4 points are some of the questions that were raised at each level in the review, level of effort for the publications, the candidate's responsibility and level of effort in the publications, sorry. Documentation of the applicant's research impact, and then perhaps, I don't know, more significantly, I'm not sure it's more, the applicant did receive notice of receipt of a substantial grant that was notified after the submission of the OFD. So there was no way that could even be considered in the question. It was almost $400,000. So there's a lot of evidence that was provided in the request for the appeal that I think merits us listening to the appeal, and that's what I'm trying to say. I'm certainly not saying whether the appeal should be, which decision it should be made, but there's substantial documentation provided that was not previously provided.
Okay. Am I understanding that this was not, during the steps of the process, was this information available to the
Correct,
people?
exactly. That's exactly right. The information was not available as the candidate, as the OFD, sorry, the outline of faculty data was going through the process. It was not provided, but it was provided in the application for the appeal.
Okay.
One thing I should have said earlier and didn't is that once the candidate turns in their application in that fall, that's it. There's no additions.
Right.
They could win the Nobel Prize the next month, and that could not go into the
Exactly.
the file. So I see what you're saying, Tony. But
Yeah.
and we're happy that the grant was won, but that was won after the probationary
Oh,
period. So any other
understand.
candidate would not have had a chance to add something that took place after that application had started.
Granted, and this is part of the process to, if something like this happens, then there's a last chance to come to the board to say, okay, this happened afterwards, let's review this and then determine. Or, let me say it, since we're not determining outcome, we're only determining whether we want to hear the appeal. But this is the point at which the applicant can appeal to. We're basically the Supreme Court of this decision, so.
Sure, and it's the board's choice, but I worry about setting the precedent that anyone who gets a negative tenure vote then is automatically going to appeal and saying, well, I did this other stuff during the next year, please consider that.
Granted,
Yes.
and I hopefully made that clear.
Yeah.
That was
Madam
not-
Chair, let me add, I would be very concerned by going, I've done this for 40 years, including looking at all tenure process for the Board of Regents, to have candidates turn in materials after the process would be an absolute disaster, quite frankly. There's no other way to say it. And we look at these candidates and review very carefully, and we depend on faculty members, the peers, to make decisions about the qualification and the merits. We should focus simply on the process as opposed to changing what the process and the policy says.
And it's extremely clear in the policy
Yes.
that additional information cannot be submitted.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Yeah, Mark, there is a lot of mystique being in this seat about tenure that we've all edged on
Right.
several times. Is our process the same process of the percentage of the universities in our state? Or are we just,
Oh.
does everyone kind of develop their own? Or is-
Well, there's a national standard, AAUP and others. I'm looking at Pippa, our faculty senate president. There are some minor differences, but we're very much in line with other universities.
Okay, good.
And in fact, this is the policy that all TBR universities used to share.
Right.
So I'd be really surprised if any of them had made significant changes.
All right. This is such an important decision because of not only the individual involved in the university, but just the precedent that this sets. So I know that everybody's had a chance to review all the materials also. That was good information. Is there any further discussion? Because I'm going to ask if there's a motion to, and we need to state the motion carefully about whether or not this board is allowing the appeal to go forward. So is there a motion regarding that?
I move to allow the appeal to proceed, to at least hear the appeal.
Okay. Is there a second? Okay, there's no second in that. Can I entertain another motion?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there a motion to, for the committee to make the decision for the appeal not to go forward?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we have a second. Second. All right. Do we need a voice vote, a roll call vote on this? Or?
You don't need one, but
Okay.
if you choose to, you could certainly.
I think that would be my preference, have a roll call vote on this. So we'll do a roll call vote.
Trustee Baker,
Agree?
Trustee DeLay,
Second. Agree.
Trustee Jacobs, Trustee Johnston,
No.
Trustee Smith,
Yes.
Trustee Wright.
Yes.
Madam Chair, the vote is 4 in agreement with the motion to deny the petition and 2 against.
Okay. All right. The motion carries to deny the petition. And so I think that is our last agenda item.
Can I question the
Yes,
count?
yes.
Can I
question?
get a recall?
Who was the two negative? Okay, I wonder who the two negative was
Yeah.
also.
The two, you mentioned.
You know, I
who's the
can't
two
hear
negatives?
thunder, but I heard
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's just
One negative. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
you did
thank
hear
you,
that.
Chairman.
You know, I can't hear thunder, so.
So any other business before the committee today? We have extra time if anyone does have more business.
Can I ask just a question, but, Mark, how many applications are denied? I know you're going through all the process, but at the
Right.
end of the day, you've been provost a couple of years, and I don't need the exact number, but
Right.
give me a picture of it.
Not many,
Well,
not
any,
many. Yes.
Oh, yes.
They're typically one or two a year.
out of 100? Or-
No, oh, gosh.
I'm just trying to get, I'm trying to get a feel for
Well, look, it's a good question, but the numbers are a little misleading because what happens is everybody who starts that tenure track does not get to the tenure application.
I hear you.
They get a,
it. So by the time it gets to the end, they all make it because they've already been through the 6
right,
steps.
we've been, and that thorough review process, we hope that people who are not going to make it move on before the tenure application.
It would be interesting to have that number beginning to end.
And I think we,
Not for today, but just for.
yeah, we can get
as
that
we
to you.
go.
I would not say that all make it, even go through the process, because I'm the final decision maker in recommending it to the board. To your question, I think there's about 10 to 15%. Every year, we have 2, 3, or 4 cases that everybody agrees to, even though there might be an appeal. So we don't recommend every single person that goes through the
Right,
process.
particularly, and you reminded me, Dr. McPhee, when you talk about promotion to professor, then the rate goes up. I was talking about tenure. The denial rate goes up significantly when you're asking for promotion from associate to full because the standards are higher. So, yeah, that's, but we'll get you those numbers.
Oh, it's not important for this.
Right, no, I
venue,
understand.
But I'd like to know just as a point.
Yep.
Good question. That's come up a few times since the board went into place. So any other discussions, business? If not, I thank everybody again for being here, and the meeting is adjourned.
When's the next schedule?
10:30.
Yeah, we got to